Backrooms is a steaming pile of, yeah, it was alright, even good in parts. A little underwhelming. Oh, it's a fucking corridor. Colour me terrified. It was all yellow. So you may know this, you may not, I don't know, I haven't checked your Facebook in a while, but the Backrooms as an idea stems from a 2019 thread on 4chan, where in response to this photo taken in 2002, a user wrote a paragraph-long short story. Anyway, in 2022, Kane Parsons, who was born in 2005, my god, started making shorts on YouTube, adding to and surely spurring on the Backrooms as a creepypasta, which is like an urban legend but usually not presented as anything other than speculative fiction by everyone but the most mad. The 2026 movie was co-financed by A24 and Churn in Entertainment for under $10 million, and sees Kane Parsons directing Will Sudick's script, itself adapted from Parsons' YouTube videos. So, dropping the Backrooms follows Captain It's Just Like a Mini-Mall Clark and his poker-faced therapist as they discover and explore some sort of interdimensional anomaly.
It takes a bit of brain power to actually rewire myself to explain the movie without just saying the Backrooms.
So after a bit of a run around with two disposables, Clark, the selfish dickhead, decides he would rather live in the Backrooms than change. So his therapist comes looking for him, they have a bit of a chat, Clark is killed, she escapes. So, skipping it all the guff I could wedge in here about my grandma finally giving me the macadamia cookie recipe and how that makes me feel about horror movies. Backrooms is an aesthetics-led film, trying to be or presenting itself as a character-led film. I'm not specifically saying that's my problem with Backrooms, but more that that's what was most notable to me about it. Looking back at The Backrooms found footage from early 2022, Parsons' short film works because of its weird and convincing aesthetics, all helped by that lovely VHS overlay. It's a very well done conventional horror with very little story. It's not a criticism to say that both the short and long versions are, first and foremost, about the setting, the Gilliam-esque never-ending maze of corridors to nowhere, and how the setting is presented and explored. But in Backrooms, I get the sense that the production team were specifically aware that the idea of Backrooms is captivating because there's so little to go on, and the reason the meme worked was that the audience can fill in the blanks. Who made the Backrooms and for what purpose is the central question, but inevitably one that can't be answered without busting the whole point. It feels, and this is of course a shrugful guess, that the producers have tried to earnestly develop interesting characters, subtext and meaning, but even with the performances of the two leads, it all feels frankly unnecessary for the story being told. I don't think the writing was bad by any means, but I do think it was clunky and contributed to an arrhythmic pace. Clark's struggle was believable, but really not that compelling, and, for example, if Mary's backstory had not been included, I think the narrative would lose nothing. Sometimes the narrative is delivered through Blair Witch-style POV, mostly though it's shot conventionally, albeit with a bit too much headroom, A- on the framing. This switching, while thematic, I don't think really helped the narrative flow. But it comes down to this. It doesn't matter if it's mindless violence, a heartfelt stepdad story, or some bollocks with Emilia Clarke. If Arnold's playing a big robot, it's Terminator. And with the Backrooms, it could have been about Captain Clark just as much as it could have been about a group of Mormons who get lost back there and use faith to stick together. Or it could have been about how Henry Winkler discovers the Backrooms and uses them to undercut the mob and dump Vancouver's waste for half the cost. It's just Terminator comes with a pre-packaged story of cat and mouse. The Backrooms is a setting, and if your setting is the never-ending corridor, a monster limping down the end of it is not something that particularly excites me. Who discovers the Backrooms and explores them doesn't really matter, but I don't think the film succeeded in hiding that arbitrary pillar. All that said, I think Parsons did a great job. I really like the score Parsons co-composed, but I guess I'm in the minority when I say that the idea of the Backrooms doesn't interest me much beyond an internal conversation that sort of ends up like this. Yeah, that would be weird. Imagine if you were stuck in the Backrooms. Yeah, that would be weird. Yeah. Imagine if you were on a really big boat, but it was really big. Yeah. If Backrooms were a taste, I think it would be something like new Car Mayo. Something like a alcohol-based aftershave on PVC soaking in the hot sun. Out of all the tastes you could be, like, not bad, really. Well, you could swallow that. So, good job, everyone. Drinks all round. See you next time. Kind of like Woody